Where are you?
Hello and welcome to the FSOMA News Update, number 9. We're so glad you're here joining us. I've got David Bibby, our new FSOMA president, and Jennifer Broadwell, our new FSOMA vice president, on the line with us. And they're going to each give some indications of things. If you have questions, you can go down to the chat and put them in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that today for any questions you have. So I'm Ellen Teeter. I'm the executive director of FSOMA, and here now the news. The first up is a little bit out of date. We've had some information about scam calls. I haven't heard of any lately, but I've got several phone calls at the office, and they seem to be from a man, claiming to be Robert Johnson. That was the name he used in one from the Board of Acupuncturists. And they try to tie in the call to illegal drugs and people dying and you're in trouble. And they ask for money, they ask for information, don't give it. Government employees will not call out of the blue. Don't wire or send money using a reloadable card, or never pay anyone anything, even if it looks legitimate. If you feel pressured to act, immediately hang up right away. And here is where you can report scam calls, either ftc.gov or fcc.gov. And there's more information about these calls at myfloridalegal.com and freshfromflorida.com. Like I said, I haven't heard anything in the last 2 weeks, but this was pretty widespread, and we've even gotten updates twice from the Board of Acupuncture about it and the FBI. So it's pretty widely known that these guys were operating, and it was not just acupuncturists that they were targeting, but they definitely didn't have their information right for us. So just in the last month, the local Central Florida chapter has a new president, Omar Hayes. Vice President is Jeffrey Herrera, and the treasurer Saima Badi. If you're in the Orlando area, you can find them on Facebook, FSOMA Central Florida Local Chapter. And actually, if you look up FSOMA chapter, do a search on Facebook for that, you can find them. I don't believe they're having live meetings yet, but they're doing some social things on Zoom, and they also are planning, I know, on some CEU events. So look for that. You should have, if you're a member, received the journal in your mailbox this past week. If you want a copy, let me know. Members can go to the membership page and go to the member benefits and click on the journal tile. It looks like this, and you'll be able to download the most recent copy of the journal. It's got some great clinical articles. There's like a 5-page article on treating COVID with tongue pictures and a lot of descriptions of the pattern change that was seen and the acupuncture points used. It's a great article. So look for that. Contact me, director at fsoma.org, if you need a link to the copy. We've got a group here in Florida that you should know about if you're wanting some business help. SCORE, S-C-O-R-E, SCORE.org is a great group. They're retired business executives, and they can help you develop a business plan and take the steps and find out what resources you need. Now, they're strictly business. They're not acupuncture related particularly, but they've got a lot of help on helping build up your business savvy. So go to score.org and search for your city, and they've got chapters all over, and it's a free resource, so take advantage. And David now has some news for us.
Thank you, Ellen. How's everybody doing tonight? I wanted to start with a quick reference to the Board of Acupuncture. These are seats that are appointed by the governor, but there's an application process for folks to consider that are interested in serving on the Board of Acupuncture as licensed practitioner, and then there are consumer positions on the board as well. Consumer members don't have to be related to the industry in any way, healthcare or acupuncture specifically, but the dates for those terms to expire are here on the screen. And we see that there's 2 expired positions, and actually the 2020 positions are available as well. So there's 4 positions available. And the application process, you can contact the office with Ellen, and we'll refer you to our legislative team in Tallahassee. They can help you with the application process. It's relatively straightforward. So if you feel like you go to the reference that we have here, floridahealthsource.gov board-members, there's more information there. Read through that, consider the responsibilities, and if this is something that's right for you, and then look at the application process. If you feel like you need some help or support, we're here to guide you with that. Usually there's a review committee that evaluates prospective board members, and they tend to do them in groups. So they may hold the applications until they have 5 or 6 people that are candidates, and then interview them and make recommendations for governor appointments. And so you can see there's some expired terms. The sitting board members continue to participate in the board until their replacement is nominated by the governor. So even though they're expired, we still have a fully seated board of acupuncture. But I'd encourage anybody that's interested in doing this. It's a interesting leadership role as a regulator, and I'm sure a new experience for anybody who is otherwise looking for that type of challenge. The strategic planning meeting for 2021 took place last weekend, and this is an opportunity that we have at the end of each year for the board of directors to meet and consider what are the priorities for the coming year. And usually it sets up around things like legislative agenda, the membership support areas, how do we support students, and then what's going on outside of Florida. But there's a whole range of subjects that were discussed, and I thought I'd just touch on legislative real quickly to give you an update of where our thinking is for legislative matters. We have some pandemic related, coronavirus related legislation, as well as non-pandemic related items. And so things specific to the 2021 related to coronavirus, we saw greater interest in utilization for telehealth. And no doubt the legislature is going to be looking at new language to govern how telehealth is handled here in Florida. Certainly, acupuncturists are already included in the telehealth bill that was written, and we want to make sure that if there's any bills proposed to clarify or expand telehealth, that acupuncture is included in that new language. There has been some discussion about better identifying essential healthcare workers as a workforce, and not only for the pandemic, but in times of disaster and disaster relief as well. And so if there is a proposed healthcare worker list, I think it's important that acupuncturists are included as identified as essential healthcare workers in this way. So we're watching for any language there. There was some discussion in April as well at the governor's office about legislation that would protect healthcare workers, healthcare providers, practitioners, facilities, institutions from frivolous lawsuits related to COVID-19 exposure or illness. And the legislative team and our lobbyists have been prepared a letter for the governor requesting inclusion in any legislation or protections that are going to be offered for healthcare providers that would protect them personally and their practices from frivolous lawsuits. And typically these are related to unscrupulous attorneys encouraging Floridians, for filing baseless lawsuits and businesses that need some protection. We want to make sure that Chapter 457 providers are included in any language that provides those protections. And non-pandemic related business, we also are considering working with a bill sponsor to look at inclusion for acupuncture services under the Florida Medicaid system. Currently, all of the statewide managed care plans for Medicaid include an acupuncture benefit, but the underlying Florida state Medicaid plan does not. So given the fact that Florida has not taken Medicaid expansion, there is a bit of an appetite in the legislature to expand benefits options available under Medicaid. And given what we see happening in the private sector, this is sort of ripe for improvement by including acupuncture services under Florida Medicaid. Typically, FSOMA is involved in some discussions with our legislative team regarding an essential benefit for acupuncture. And this would apply to not the state Medicaid plan, but all health insurance plans that are underwritten in the state of Florida to include an acupuncture benefit, particularly in given the opioid crisis and the mismanagement of pain control. This has certainly provided an opportunity for acupuncturists and for the medicine to have a very visible role as an alternative option for pain management, pain treatment. And we saw this with the Department of Health's willingness to include acupuncture in its required recommendations for physicians prior to prescribing opioid drugs. So these conversations kind of pull together a certain both demand and desire to see more acupuncture benefits available to more Floridians. And so whether we're doing it in the public sector under Medicaid or in the private sector under private insurance, we're working on both. We're also setting a meeting with the state Florida Surgeon General here in Florida to discuss volunteer options for the profession as a way of demonstrating greater professionalism and leadership and interdisciplinary cooperation. So there's several volunteer programs. The Medical Reserve Corps is one, but there are a couple of other volunteer schemes under the Department of Health where healthcare providers can get involved in providing direct care in certain instances, supportive care, and even administrative roles in a volunteer effort to help either support underserved areas or to step in situations of disaster and relief. So we're pretty busy on the legislative front. Student programs in terms of membership are always very active. We're looking for more and more creative input, working with the schools, helping students early on get a better understanding about some of their challenges, postgraduate challenges with regard to practice management. And certainly they're getting strong academic support in school, but we're trying to work as a professional association to prepare students for the workforce as well. So the strategic planning meeting was a very powerful couple of days. A lot of solid ideas percolated up. And if you have any more questions about that, Ellen or I'd be happy to provide you with more details. Okay, Ellen, I'm going to give it back to you.
Sorry about that. We're
That's
going to
okay.
talk about the PPP Loan Forgiveness for just a minute, and I'm not going to read all this. It will be available in the PowerPoint later, but there have been some changes. And I know my bank, when I talked to them a month or so ago, said they were waiting for the final word, and the Congress kept changing stuff. So now the final word's out, and my bank is telling me probably in the next couple weeks, I'll get the application for the forgiveness from them. So the lender, the lender is who you need to talk with. You should have a strong relationship with your lender. Hopefully your loan didn't get sold. And they can interpret the SBA guidelines as they build their own forgiveness portals. So there is going to be a little difference bank to bank, but contact your bank about when you think you'll get your forgiveness package to fill out. And The IRS has not changed any of the earlier guidance that payroll and non-payroll expenses forgiven via the PPP process cannot be deducted from the borrower's tax return. So you need to also talk to your accountant, your tax advisors, to see what impact that might have on your taxable income for the year. So talk to your banker is the basic news there. So, and I'm going to let Jennifer take over the screen and share her screen with us. She's going to be talking about the National Medicare campaign. And this is Jennifer, our illustrious Vice President, just elected.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ellen. Thanks for everything you do. And thank you to all of you for taking your time to join us for this discussion tonight. We're going to discuss the roadmap to Medicare. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen now. Let's see. All right, guys. So my name is Jennifer Broadwell, and I am the chair of the Advocacy Committee for the American Society for Acupuncturists. The ASA is a federation of states. There are 36 member states that make up the council of the ASA, and your membership in the ASA is a member benefit of joining your state association. So if your state is not a member of the ASA, please feel free to contact them and ask for your state to join. And I'd also like to remind you that the External Communications Committee of the ASA has created a roadmap to Medicare document that will illustrate the presentation that we're going to speak about. And you can find that on the homepage of their website, and that is www.asacu.org. So let's talk Medicare. Attempting any federal legislation, so to be recognized within the Social Security Act as a provider, is going to require a lot of strategy, and it's going to require a lot of effort. There are many considerations for this process, and it likely could take us several years to accomplish this. Our strategy may need to adjust as the political climate changes, but the constant in this process will be our communications. We will be communicating with you at each step of the process through all available channels. And let's see if I can get to the next screen. Apparently I cannot. Bear with me one moment here. I'm having some difficulty navigating this. There we go. So why are we seeking recognition? Well, we are seeking recognition in a nutshell because we want to increase the access and we want to reduce the barriers to care for our patients. Currently, Medicare covers over 50 million Americans, and by 2030, this program is expected and projected to cover 80 million. Medicare policies and coverage largely influence third payer coverage decisions, and licensed acupuncturists are considered independent providers, but without Medicare recognition, we must practice under supervision and as auxiliary personnel. The lack of the provider status significantly restricts the beneficiary's access to qualified licensed acupuncturists, and it's also prohibiting many licensed acupuncturists from treating Medicare beneficiaries today under chronic low back pain, but hopefully those covered diagnoses will increase in the future. So I'd like to draw your attention to a few pieces on these slides. At the very bottom here, you're going to notice two things that I'd like you to pay attention to. The first is going to be who. So this is going to let us know at what stage different people are going to need to be involved, and most specifically when we're going to need your help to be involved and to participate with us, and also the timing underneath that. And so that's going to let you know when each of these stages is going to be in effect. So the starting point for all of this is gathering organizational support. So this is working with our stakeholders, and those are our own national organizations such as the NCCOM or ACOM, and that also is inclusive of other professional organizations that are supportive of licensed acupuncturists and also wish to increase access to care for their patients by helping to get licensed acupuncturists recognized within the Social Security Act. So we are currently developing that list, and we are setting up what is our strategic outreach plan so that we can assure that we're in alignment with those stakeholders, and we can also understand how we're going to be communicating with each other so that we make sure we're all on the same page. So that's undergoing. And then we'll go into stage 2. So we're going to need to draft bill language, and we've got a congressional champion right now with Representative Judy Chu out of California. So working with Representative Chu's provisions as our base language, we will begin to draft that language and send that out to our stakeholder group for feedback. And then we will work to finalize that bill language. Now, once the language on that bill is finalized, it's then going to need to go to the House Legislative Council. It is that Legislative Council that drafts all legislation into bill form. And so the timing on this could be a bit ongoing because we're going to need to work around their schedule. That process could take a few months, just depending on what the scheduling is like within the Legislative Council there. And so we are currently doing that, and that's something that we're working on again within our congressional sponsor, our champion, and also within the ASA and NCCOM. So our next step is going to be to secure bipartisan support. We will need to be looking for a Republican co-sponsor. We will also need to begin to reach out to the members of the House of Representative committees that hold jurisdiction over CMS, which is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. And we're going to pay special attention to the committees of Energy and Commerce and is also Ways and Means. And then we will need to look for getting additional co-sponsors to sign on to this bill so that we can get into subcommittee hearings. So the timing on this is really going to be after that bill language is finalized, but we are in that process of starting to identify who some of those potential sponsors could be. And we are also going to need to do a congressional packet. So this is going to be issuing a brief that's going to outline the benefits of this Medicare recognition. It'll include bill talking points. We will need to compile evidence-based support that will be able to address the cost effectiveness, the quality, the access, and the effectiveness of acupuncture, as well as looking at acupuncture within the biomedicine realm. So what's the role of acupuncture in combating the opioid epidemic, and also the favorable ways that acupuncture is being used and seen and viewed within the Department of Veteran Affairs, the VA, as well as the DoD, the Department of Defense. Then we'll need to compile a workforce document, and that is going to outline things such as the numbers for the acupuncturist workforce, the geography, the licensure requirements, the education and training. And so that is stuff that we are working on at this point. And then we can start to gather support and frame our arguments. We will need to identify strong evidence areas for acupuncture, as well as where there are existing gaps. We are going to be working with the ASA Research Committee so that if we do need to develop some short pilot studies to help to fill in those gaps, we will. We will also look at the need of US-based systematic evidence review so that we can really frame those arguments. And then we're going to go into what will be considered targeted high-level advocacy, and that's when we will be doing our outreach and meetings with the original co-sponsors for the bill. Then we will begin also outreach and meetings with Ways and Means and Energy and Commerce, as well as the outreach to the state associations so that everybody is on the same page, and potentially also reaching out to the House members that represent large numbers of acupuncturists within the United States. So the timing on this, although this is happening from a high level in terms of trying to strategize it now, this really won't begin to take effect until we begin introducing the bill and after as needed. So for bill introduction, that's when we'll really get to do the official launch for our advocacy here. And we'll be working again with our congressional champions on the timing to introduce this bill. And at that point, we can start to really organize our grassroots and our media efforts. that will help to coincide with the introduction. We will look to organize our acupuncture advocacy campaigns to increase the awareness, and also to always gather additional bipartisan co-sponsors. We'll also look at doing things like virtual Hill Day with licensed acupuncturists from key congressional districts. And this is stage 7 here, but this is where we're going to start to need the help of licensed acupuncturists. So all of the steps that we're doing prior to this is really going to be framing and getting us ready and positioned so that when this stage comes, we're going to have all the information for you, and we're going to be able to really deliver it to you in a scalable and replicable way that you can use in real time. So after our congressional champions are identified and the bill has been introduced, we'll begin stage 7. And that will lead us directly to the grassroots advocacy. So we are looking at ways to build those toolkits that each member state will be able to utilize. We will do this with training webinars. We'll do this through the ASA and NCCOM joint town halls. We are also hoping that each state association will be holding those trainings as well with the materials that we can provide. We will identify and confirm organizational support as well from non-acupuncture healthcare practitioner groups. And at this point, we can start to organize patients and patient advocacy groups, as well as the support from collaboratives and coalitions that are going to also be supportive of what we're trying to do here. So this is in development now, but implementation is not going to really happen until after that bill introduction. And when that happens, again, that's going to be something that we are going to be looking for the support from the licensed acupuncturists at large. And so publicity and communication. You know, as I said before, the constant in this process, we really want to be communication. We want to let you know everything that's happening at every stage. So we're trying to do that right now through talks like this. We are also doing that in monthly updates at the ASA through the ASA newsletter. We are giving you exactly where we are in this process. We're also trying to develop some educational materials about the overall legislative process to help you have a better understanding of what that is. And then we're going to begin also with planning for what happens with Medicare recognition. What do we need to start educating on in terms of how do we enroll? What's compliance look like? What are things we're going to need to be considering at that stage of the game? So we have created an advocacy page on the ASA. There is also a current advocacy page on the NCCOM. So if you go to the ASA website, again, asacu.org, you'll be able to see right on that, on the homepage there, you can click onto Medicare. You'll be able to see all the talks we've done and all of the information that we've issued to date. We're also doing a featured article in each Acupuncture Today publication. And that's not just the publications that you're receiving in the mail, the print publications, but it's also happening on their digital versions. So you can look for a high level detailed account of where we are right now, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, right there in Acupuncture Today. And this is something that hopefully you will be engaged in this process. This is happening now, and this is going to happen every step of the way. So we really invite and depend on your participation as well. This is a huge undertaking, and we're all going to need to work on this together. So when we start to look at long-term congressional and public advocacy efforts, well, we're going to continue to try to add as many co-sponsors as we possibly can, and that will be bipartisan support. We are going to need to also prepare a cost-effectiveness case for Congress. Congress is going to issue something called the CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office score. In most cases, bills are going to need a score to be able to pass. The CBO is an estimate of the effects that a bill is going to have on the overall budget. The goal for is for the CBO to score our bill as a cost saver or as budget neutral. Because again, in most cases, a bill will need that CBO score to go forward. So when we're at this stage, when we have our congressional champions identified, again, this is when we will still be doing our grassroots advocacy on a consistent basis and letting those representatives know that this is important to us and that this is important to our patients. So how can you help? Best way to help is to stay informed and to stay engaged in this process. Know how to support the efforts and know when you need to support the efforts. So if you have any questions on that, contact your state association for details on how to support professional advocacy efforts. You know, this is a huge undertaking and there are so many pieces that are helpful to this process. You know, as David mentioned earlier, the designation as an essential healthcare worker, that too helps in this process because this gives us just a larger footprint to say, these are all of the other places that were listed in the system. So if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me at advocacy@asacu.com and feel free to contact your states directly or the ASA or the NCCOM if you wish. So I just want to let you know that, you know, there's so many ancillary benefits also to being listed within the SSA. You know, to dovetail on again what David said with essential healthcare, well, the critical infrastructure worker, therefore the designation as an essential healthcare worker is largely informed by the SSA. The potential for student loan forgiveness begins with those professions that are listed within the SSA or the Social Security Act. And it also opens a lot of possibilities for us for internships and residency programs. So there's a lot of benefits that are beyond simply being able to increase patient access and reduce barriers to care. So we really do hope that you're going to join us in working to help to get licensed acupuncturists securely recognized and included within the U.S. healthcare system. And if I can be of any assistance at all, please let me know. Thank you so much, and thank you for the time. Enjoy.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to actually share the page on the website so you can. This is the
Thank you so much.
ASACU. Yep,
You,
and then
you just scroll down. You've got it.
and here's the roadmap.
Yes. And this is interactive, guys. So this is really going to illustrate. If you just scroll down a tiny bit more. There you go. And you are going to, there's a spot on here that you can click to make this interactive. And I'm sorry, it's just, let me try, see if my glasses can help. There we go. So if you click on each stage, it's then going to expand. And this is going to illustrate so much of what we just spoke about, as well as detailing where we are in timing and who's going to be necessary at each step. So it was a great piece of work that came out of the External Communications Committee.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
I have one more slide to share on the PowerPoint.
I was going to say real quick, Jen, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And detailed, easy to follow, really quite informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Both of you, FSOMA has been an incredible support in this process, and I've learned so much from both of you.
Thank you. I actually probably should just share the YouTube page. This is a clip of it, and it just shows you we have 36 Building Better Business. We have 8 news broadcasts. We have several clinical webinars. We have, it was advertising for the conference. Meet the Master series had some great interviews, and then we just have some other different videos. There's actually, and I'm not showing them here, some TWENA videos where we had a class at the conference and had a video of it with Chad Bailey. So go to YouTube and look up Florida State Oriental Medical Association and you'll get to our channel. So that's just one little ad on our news tonight. So I want to thank the 3 of you. Sure.
I was just going to ask quickly in conclusion, I just wanted to thank and mention, you know, we had a change with the elections for the State Association Board of Directors. And so I want to recognize Sandra Kahn, who is our outgoing president, who's been a tremendous advocate for the profession over her career on the board of directors, and just finished 4 years as president with, you know, tremendous effort and leadership and helping shape the direction of the board. It's been a real honor. And she's going to continue to serve with us in a director and advisory role as long as she wants to. So her input over the weekend was, as always, very helpful. We have also, I want to recognize Saima Bhatti real quickly, who has been on the board of directors for a number of years with us. Most recently was the chair of the membership committee, was a champion for the Orlando local chapters and a mentor for people around the state who wanted to discuss chapters in their local areas of the state. And Saima is still serving with the committee, but we have a new committee chair. That's Joshua Jackson, who's been serving on the membership committee board for committee for a while and is really poised to step in and step up and take over a leadership role there. And obviously
she's also our new secretary.
And our new secretary. She's joined the executive committee. And of course, I want to thank and recognize Jennifer Broadwell, we just heard from. And Jennifer's moved from secretary to vice president to continue serving in a leadership role. And she's got a lot of hats. I mean, the national advocacy effort with the ASA, as well as local responsibilities to Florida, is a lot. And lastly, we have a new board of directors, Demita, and of course, Demita Hartz, and we're grateful to have, her enthusiasm, her professionalism stepping up. And already we had a great weekend with an opportunity to share new ideas and new directions and things that are important to us. So, just wanted to take a second. We have people that are still serving. Raphael is still our treasurer. Gretchen Gonzalez did a fabulous job with us all last year, but most notably as the conference chair, made it possible for us to pull off a tremendous event. I think everybody that participated was really, expectations were exceeded. We had a wonderful event. And I think Hong Jin, who is right here, I want to thank Hong Jin for her years of support. It came up in our discussions over the weekend that it's been some 30 years of leadership in the profession. So she has tremendous insights, both as to where we've been, how we got here, and what our direction could be going forward. And that sort of speaks to a lot of what Jennifer was talking about, elevating the profession, using all of the safety and efficacy data that we have and what is known about and appreciated about acupuncture and oriental medicine, and elevating it so that both the public and the practitioners have greater access, fewer barriers to care, and that the profession can be as rewarding as possible for everybody who chooses this. And I'll leave my comments there and look forward to our next news update. And thank you, Ellen.
Okay, I was just showing the whole board. So this is our newest member, Demita Hartz. She's in Gainesville. Gretchen's up in Jacksonville, so we have North Florida well represented. Hong Jin's in Clearwater. I'm in Bradenton, so we've got the West Coast. Joshua's in Orlando. We used to have more board members in Orlando. We're kind of morphing around the state a little. Raphael's Miami. Jennifer's in Boca, right? Or Boca Raton. And David is on the West Coast, a little further north up in Crystal River. So, and then just to make you dizzy, I'm going to go down to Natalia is the Director of Communications. She's in Miami, and I'm Ellen. I'm in Bradenton. So, all right. Well, thank you all for being here and attending. And that was a great presentation. We'll be posting it on the website and sending it out to members and the community. So.
Thank you, Ellen.
So much. All right.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.
Okay.